I like him. I like him a lot.
Molasses.
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 Molasses. Great. Thank you.
Charlotte Murray says, get out of here with your misogyny. There are plenty of female pirates.
What does misogyny have anything to do with that? Even if someone was wrong about this, even if. It wouldn't make him misogynist, it would just make him wrong. Can we stop with the stupid labeling, you absolute... Hey, noble ones! Welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. Today, I'm on Wired. I'm wired today. I'm also got my drink, Wired. Alright, Mr. Wired, it says, this always been Wired's banner, because for some reasons I don't remember it, but I don't know, maybe it's just me. So what have we got? Air Crush investigated answers aviation accident question. Oh, that'd be interesting to check out, not that I know anything. The Samurai Guy, we already checked, he was really nice. What's the fastest growing minority in America? Oh, watch it being the noble ones. We're almost at 1 million. I'm already getting pedantic and I haven't even got into the video. What makes Americans so susceptible to cults? But you know what? This guy has been spammed. Historian answers pirate questions. We might play some Monkey Island now that I'm thinking about it. I do have it. Where did the pirate accent... Ooh, there's a little linguistic there. Yeah, we're going to watch this. We're going to watch this.
I'm historian Angus Constam. Let's answer your questions from the internet. This is pirate support.
Cool. His name is Angus. Isn't that the name like of a beef? Wait, I got. Isn't it like the Argentinian beef? I need to check that one out. It is. Angus beef is the beef that comes from the Aberdeen Angus breed of cattle, which are muscular and known for their high marbling. Is this man known for his muscularity? Look at the muscularity.
At Straight Grubbin asked, where did the pirate accent come from? Because there's no way in hell that people really talk like that.
I wonder what he means, because at the end of the day, what's a characteristic of a pirate accent? It's a rhotic accent, yar. So the sound, yeah, I mean, he's going to explain it, but that's how it used to be. Like, you know how in England now, it's mostly a non-rhotic accent, unless you're from the countryside of Bristol, more on that later. Even my accent is non-rhotic. I don't pronounce the R if it's at the end of a word. But it's sort of a modern evolution of the English pronunciation, in fact. Everyone had a rhotic accent if you go further back in time.
It was invented by the actor Robert Newton when he did the Walt Disney film Treasure Island back in 1950. He used his native Somerset accent and embellished it a bit, and that created the sound of the pirate, essentially.
Hardly worth dividing, is it, George?
It's a great accent, but it's just one actor's view of what a pirate would sound like. Pirates would have come from just about any port in Britain or Europe.
Excuse me, is this the way to Port Royal? Shiver me timbers, my lad, if I know a better way.
Captain! The accent!
Well, of course, that's a good point. It depends on where the pirate is from. Also, the idea of what a pirate is and what a corsair is, or a privateer, it really depends on what perspective you're looking at it, because historically, you could be a pirate, so like a criminal, from the perspective of England, but since you're paid by the Spanish crown, you're not a pirate to them, you're a privateer. So you've got a license. Oi, have you got a license for that ship?
Or even colonial America. When Robert Newton chose that accent, he'd no idea 60, 70, 80 years later, people are using it as the established pirate accent. The power and the impact of that film at the time and how it captured people's imagination. At Corby Nest asks, why are pirates called pirates?
Oh, good. That's a good question.
Pirates really comes from a Greek word which means to attack or to rob. Pirates existed as far back as the ancient Egyptians. And then when the Romans came along, their word pirates essentially meant a sea robber. They had whole navy.
Interestingly enough, Romans did have piracy. It's mentioned in the sources. Alexander the Great, in fact, complains about it. And the idea is we usually don't imagine the Romans as being seafarers or navigators, but they were. They absolutely had a navy. It wasn't like an amazing navy, but they did have a navy even before the First Punic War, contrary to popular belief and Plutarch. And when the Romans actually acquired a specific port that was famous for pirates, they acquired their ships, and so they continued the seafaring operations as well.
Patrols out trying to hunt down pirates. Famously, Pompey the Great organized a sweep.
We're back with Pompey. Yeah, let's go. Game on. It's Pompey night. Pompey. Metatron, stop clipping the mic, said no one ever to an Italian. What a waste of time. I'm gonna write a petition to every single university on planet Earth to remove pronunciation Pompey and change it into Pompeius. Watch me.
Through the Mediterranean to capture all the pirates he found. They were using the term then, so it's kind of stuck. At Luca Don Muse says, what's your favourite rule of the pirate code? We have a few examples of pirate codes, and they're really codes of conduct within the ship to govern how the pirates operate on board the ship. I like the fact that they're very democratic. For instance, how any plunder is held in common by the pirates and divided up. They also have ones that give you an idea of what life was like on board. Basic things like no candles while you're gambling and drinking below decks. Very sensible one. Knock over a candle in a wooden ship and all hell breaks loose. At Sean Rome 1 asks, what do pirates do for fun? We don't know an awful lot about what pirates did on board, but we have a few records from merchant captains taken prisoner and held on board pirate ships. There was a lot of card playing and an awful lot of drinking.
Ha! Just like you.
Essentially, every time they looted a ship with drink in it, pirates would lay into the stuff. Ships carrying things like Madeira wine was regularly imported to colonial America. Pirates were well stocked with drink, but also an awful lot of just lying around looking bored because they were waiting for a victim. That involved a lot of long passages at sea doing very little. Great Sambino, I wonder if pirates really did use wooden peg legs, or is this just common folklore? They must have gotten seriously bad splinters. Often people with peg legs were used as cooks, just as Long John Silver was in Treasure Island. Peg legs are probably the only kind of prosthetic available. As for splinters, I'm sure that happened.
Yeah, sure. I mean, prosthetics, you do what you can with what you have, isn't it? Like, it really is era dependent. I wonder if there is any drawing that is like period that shows one of those. It'd be nice. Let's see if I can find it.
At Wheelie Average, what's the most famous non-fictional pirate through history? There's a lot to choose from. Probably the instant iconic pirate is Blackbeard, Edward Teach. Instantly recognizable. He did things like blockade Charleston, which really upset the apple cart in colonial America. People didn't know where he was going to attack next, and for a short period, merchant ships wouldn't go to sea for the risk of being
This guy is awesome, by the way.
attacked by pirates. His parents owned a plantation in Jamaica. They were well off, but he got the bug when he was a privateer. He obviously liked it, he was good at it, and so when he grabbed the chance, he went out pirating.
Here's another word for it. So we said pirate, we said privateer. Again, they're not exactly the same, but, you know. Then you have corsair, then you have buccaneer, and then you have filibuster. They're all different. I think some of these are like geographically connected. Like you are a buccaneer if you are a pirate, but on a specific area. I think it's like the Caribbeans.
On his own account. At Luke 4337 says, weren't pirates democratic and overthrew bad captains? Pirates were very democratic. At the time, we're speaking about the early 18th century, it was a very strained, constricted sort of lifestyle, ruled by the church, ruled by laws. Pirates were rebelling against that. They were rebelling against tyrannical merchant captains who could have them flogged or even killed without any recourse to the law. They could vote in a captain they liked and vote out one who didn't suit their needs, and that happened several times. If the pirates weren't happy, they'd call a meeting and they would decide if the captain should stay or go. Pirate captains like Charles Vane were deposed by their crew. He and his crew that supported him were shoved onto this other ship and told to fend for themselves, while the pirates elected a new captain, in this case Jack Rackham, and he sailed off to continue his piratical career somewhere.
But he didn't have a beard. I mean...
somewhere else. At Honey Nut Berrios says, pirates never actually made people walk the plank. There's no real evidence that pirates ever did. It came largely from J.M. Barrie, who wrote Peter Pan. J.M. Barrie used...
I was going to say it's going to be Peter Pan, because that's, I think, that is the first time that I can recall seeing that image. I didn't know it was the actual first time that was ever used literally as a literary device, but that was the first one I thought. I immediately imagined Peter Pan and then Hook making him do that. And then I think, doesn't he fly or something? Whatever happens. But yeah, I remember that. I didn't know it was the first time that that was ever used, but it's really, really fun if you think about it. Well, I mean, not for the person who's doing the walking, but for people reading.
The whole plot device of walking a plank to add dramatic impact to his story, because pirates wouldn't bother sticking a plank out and making people walk it.
Yeah, just throw them off the ship.
Except in fiction. Normally, a pirate would just cut your throat and throw your body overboard, and there's plenty of examples of that happening. Pirates could be nasty.
You wouldn't say?
Some, like George Lowther, made a name for being almost psychopathically vicious, and they would often pick on the captain of a ship that they captured as a figure of authority, and they'd often torture him just to make his life a misery before killing him and throwing him overboard. At Ross3 said, "So you're telling me Jack Sparrow wasn't a real pirate?" Well, no, he was a character beautifully played by Johnny Depp.
Yeah, it's so iconic. So iconic. I think it's his best role. I watched a few films with the man, but I think that is the best. Not to mention, he has a really good accent on that one. Like, sometimes you got these actors, and whether it be an American who needs to put on a British accent, or whether it be a British guy who needs to put on an American accent, sometimes it just fails miserably. But his accent, his interpretation is just so good.
His inspiration for it was largely Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, because he just liked that crumpled but dynamic look. Johnny Depp just took that, embellished it, and ran with it, just like Robert Newton did all those years before with
I had no idea. I'm learning quite a bit from this man. He's good.
Treasure Island. He's actually basing his look not just on Keith Richards, but in real pirates. Look at the hair. That's straight from Edward Teach, from Blackbeard. He's got a captain's coat, the kind of fancy coat that a pirate captain would wear, albeit kind of shabby. This is the sort of thing they'd steal from a boat. The whole thing is kind of exaggerated, but underlying it, there's a sort of real pirate look in there. And
it's like characterized. I think that's the word.
Another thing with Johnny Depp is he's always a bit drunk. Pirates did steal a lot of rum from ships. At Beth,
once again, just like you.
The Cowboys makes a good point, and he says, how am I supposed to pay attention in class when gay pirates exist? There were gay pirates. Bartholomew Roberts, probably the most...
Well, of course. I mean, pirates were men. They were human beings. So, of course, there's going to be a certain percentage. There's going to be a minority, but there's going to be a certain percentage. There's going to be gay. Yeah. And the other thing is that I imagine having to be, I'm not saying that being out on the sea without access to women for a long time is going to make you gay. That's not what I'm saying. You're either gay or you're not. But some of your behavior may be influenced by that condition, I would imagine.
Successful pirate, in terms of the number of ships he captured, was definitely a gay pirate. His partner was one of the crew and was equally ferocious. In a very constricting society, being a pirate was a great place to be. You were part of that pirate crew, and they all looked after each other very well. At Fisherbeck PB asks a great question. What's the difference between a privateer and a pirate? In time of war, governments give privateers a letter of marque, basically a license to become a licensed pirate. For instance, during Queen Anne's War, anyone could go get letter of marque, and if they had financial backing, they could gather together a crew for a ship, buy a ship, and go off hunting. Anytime that ship was captured, it was taken back to port and legally sold. The government would get its cut, about 20%, and the rest was sheer profit, shared between any shareholders in the enterprise and then amongst the crew. The trouble is...
Yeah, it is a very organized... You don't think of it, right? I remember doing research on this a few years ago when I made like a video on piracy, and it's true, oftentimes when you think about piracy, you're just thinking of something illegal, a criminal of the sea. But the reality is that, once again, it really depends on the perspective, what state, what country. Even if it wasn't a privateer which has a license, I know it's kind of crazy to think about it, English and Spanish, they hated each other. They were always constantly, particularly in this age, at each other's throat. So if you have this ship of pirates and they attack an English ship, do you think the Spanish are going to have a problem with that? Of course not. And so, and vice versa.
When the war stopped, those licenses were terminated. A lot of pirates had spent a lot of time learning the skills. They didn't want to go back to the drudgery of being a regular merchant seaman. They decided to keep going. A pirate attacks any ship regardless of nationality. They're just there to hunt the seas. At about 1730...
And kind of plunder, yeah.
1714, there was an immense upsurge of piracy, mainly in the Caribbean and the American seaboard, but also over in coasts of West Africa. The Golden Age of Piracy, a modern term for a deadly problem. At Markovic says, why is it trying to drink off rum while watching Pirates of the Caribbean? Rum and the Caribbean kind of go together. The main trading good of large parts of the Caribbean was sugar.
Yeah, this makes me want to play Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, such a good board game. You should check it out.
Sugar was used to make rum. And now we associate rum with pirates, largely because they operated a lot of the time in the Caribbean, captured rum and drank it.
Nice, let me check that. I'm not double checking him, it's just that I have no idea. So how is rum made? It's out of curiosity. Rum is made from sugarcane through a series of steps including harvesting. Sugarcane is cut close to the ground and transformed to a mill. Extracting juice. The sugarcane is crushed to extract its juice. Creating molasses. The juice is processed into molasses. A dark sweet liquid left over after making crystallized sugar. Fermentation. Yeast and water are added to the molasses. Oh gosh, how do you pronounce it?
Molasses.
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 Molasses. Great. Thank you. Molasses then. Molasses. Oh, this was fun. I'm going to have to do this as a series on the second channel. Metatron tries to put up an accent. It's going to be great. Anyways, distillation. The fermented liquids is heated to evaporate the alcohol, which is then condensed and collected. The type of still used, either a column still or a pot still, can significantly impact the flavor of the rum. Maturation. Some of the rum is aged in charred white oak barrels to give its rich color and flavor. Different aged rums may be blended to create a desired taste. Bottling. The finished rum is bottled. Any originating in the Caribbean. The historian is correct. Man, I had no idea that that's how rum is made. It's freaking sugar alcohol. I had no idea. Wait, doesn't sugar... Hold on a minute, wait. Oh, it's a myth that alcohol metabolizes into sugar. Alcohol does significantly affect blood sugar levels, causing a yo-yo effect. What the heck is that? Initially, alcohol raises blood sugar levels, but after the body processes the alcohol, blood sugar levels drop dramatically. I see. It wouldn't be epic, though, if you take sugar, turn it into alcohol, only to drink it so your body can turn it back into sugar. It's a myth, apparently. Oh, but it would have been so meta.
Charlotte Murray says, get out of here with your misogyny. There are plenty of female pirates in One Piece who were inspired by real-life female.
What does misogyny have anything to do with that? Even if someone was wrong about this, even if, it wouldn't make him misogynist, it would just make him wrong. Can we stop with the stupid labeling, you absolute whoever you are? Stop insulting and calling people with labels. This is so stupid. Stupid. Pisses me off.
Pirates. There are not many examples of female pirates, but in the contemporary, very strict society of the 18th century, the whole idea that women would become pirates and go to sea, that was truly shocking and sensational. So people...
Exactly. See, so the guys, oh, misogynist is so misogynist. No, you're looking at it and framing it within the correct historical environment in order to provide a coherent analysis. Misogyny.
Loved it. Anne Bonny and Mary Read were part of a pirate crew, one of Captain Calico Jack Rackham. They both dressed like men and fought and...
Does that make the professor misogynist now that he said that? Huh?
Drank and did all the things other pirates did. Anne Bonny was recruited first. She was probably the lover of Jack Rackham, at least that's what the records suggest. And then Mary Read, who was a friend of hers, joined as well. They weren't just going along for the ride, they were full-on cutthroat pirates. And they, in the last battle before they were captured, were the only ones who were able to put up a real fight, mainly because the men had all been drinking. When Jack Rackham...
Oh, that's funny. Of course the men have been drinking. I'm surprised they hadn't been drinking. It's not like women don't like to drink. Let's be honest about this. But anyways, that's what I want. I just want to hear the facts. So he's got Bonny, and she was a pirate. The historical record mentions it. He's presenting it. Lovely. I just want to know how it is. If the fact instead was a historian here, plus a specialist, told me, no, there was not even one woman pirate in the history of mankind, then I would have been like, okay, that's what the facts tell us. I mean, who cares? Why does it have to be feelings over facts? He said it was very rare, so it was very rare. Just like women warriors, they exist. They're very rare. There are some examples in the historical record, but in the majority of cases it was men that went to war. But it's also wrong to say there was not even one woman warrior, because we've got people like the Ayazigis, people of the steppes, so Eurasia. You've got the Sarmatians, which we know had trained women to fight on horseback, wearing bronze scale armor and using spears. Even the Romans mention it, so it's not like they don't exist. They do, but it's one of those things. If you say women warriors were a minority, it's a rarity culturally, and for the majority of human history it's men that went to war, not women, then, oh, you're so misogynist, you're a bigot. And then if you say, but some women did exist, like the Sarmatians, and the sources mention it, then, oh, you're so woke, you're woke. Guys, can we just look at the facts? Seriously. Anyways, let's get back to Pirate Man.
Ship was captured off the western end of Jamaica. They were taken to Port Royal as prisoners and thrown in the jail. It was a sensation that shocked the world that women would be pirates. Almost all the crew were taken away and hung, but Anne Bonny and Mary Read, they both pleaded that they were pregnant, and they managed to throw themselves in the leniency of the court, and they got away with it.
Wow, look at that. See, he passed no judgment whatsoever. Right? He's not saying, oh, look at these empowered women, blah, blah, blah. He didn't do that. He's just telling us the facts. And he didn't say the opposite. Like, he didn't say, oh, women, they did that because blah, blah, blah. Like, he's just giving us the facts. I really appreciate that. I like him. I like him a lot. Now, it's unbelievable. This has been so fast. This man is good. Really caught my attention. So we watched exactly half of the video. So I'm going to stop my react here in order to encourage people to go watch the rest of the video, but so far I really liked Mr. Pirate Man. And just to let you know, we have a SPR, we found any treasure, pirate life expectancy, that could be interesting. You know what, let's watch pirate life expectancy because it's very short. We're gonna watch this as the end, and then for all the rest, it's got some really good stuff like pirate ships, pirate weaponry, and he's gonna show the weapons. I'm not gonna react to that because I think it's a good way to encourage people to go watch the original video, but I do want to see pirate life expectancy.
Yahaf Sal says, how does one get an access code to become a pirate? How do you become a pirate? You needed to be a sailor. Landlubbers were of no use. Pirates were merchant seamen. If they mutinied against a nasty tyrannical captain and took over a ship, that was one of the first access codes to becoming a pirate. The other one is once pirates were at sea, they captured a merchant ship. They'd often ask the crew, do you want to join us? That's a big step though, because once they do, they couldn't go home. They couldn't go back to their families. That was it. They were a pirate until they died. At WhaleFan69 asks, what did pirates do before sunscreen? We have accounts of them using tallow, the stuff they used to grease ropes. They often put that on their faces to block themselves from the sun. But what pirates tended to do is have a very big straw hat.
That's awesome. This guy is amazing. Give him a like. You know, I'm fair. As you know, I'm not always a big fan of Wired as a channel. But when they get a good guess, I give him a like and put links in the description, as I always do, because it's a good guess, right? I want to look at it case by case. I don't want to let my own personal bias towards the channel, which, again, not a huge fan. But when they have a good guess, they have a good guess. Give them a like. Simple as that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not yet a member of this community, become a noble one. Subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. See you tomorrow.